This is House Planning Help episode 219. Hello, I'm Ben Adam Smith, and this is the podcast for you if you're interested in self-build, because I'm exploring what houses we should be building in the 21st century and trying to break down the major roadblocks that may get in our way. Coming up, it's a solo session as I investigate a common phenomena that is ditching or delaying your landscaping plans because you've run out of money. First, though, we're always trying to put new content into the hub, and this has been quite an interesting week. We have 3 in-depth video case studies that we follow in the hub, and this week I've visited all 3. We've been doing some more filming. The idea is that we try to make sure that you understand fully what a project is all about, and what better way to understand than by seeing it. So on Monday this week, I returned to Buckinghamshire Passive House, where they've actually finished the building, so that's all done. What's interesting is the planning permission said that they had to take down the old building. So when they started, they were looking into retrofitting, this is the clients, and an analysis of the building just worked out that you're almost throwing money down the drain here. It would take a lot of work and it's in such poor state and not a great place on the site, so they started again. So I turned up at this demolition and was amazed at the speed it goes down. I guess it's obvious really, isn't it? The equivalent of the big wrecking ball. They were just using a big excavator to knock it down piece by piece. Then on Tuesday, back at Long Barrow, we've had Alex back on the podcast recently. There's more work there. They've been insulating the roof. So I was up on the roof doing filming and saw them put the EPDM down. That's a section of rubber, and then the landscaping will go on top of that. It's going to look great when it's done. Just incredible how much work. They've got to be so careful about moisture because, of course, it's set down, and then you've got earth going over the top as well. I imagine it's not going to be that thick. Wednesday, back on my own project, watching Richie spray painting the upstairs. So we're in the decoration phase now and trying not to get my camera covered in paint. So all of this content, this is the professional stuff that we make. We spend a lot of time. We try to make sure that there's a lot to learn in these videos too. And they're normally between 5 and 10 minutes. And each month in the hub, we release a new one. However, something I've got into quite recently, someone suggested that it might be a good thing to do, and they were absolutely right. I'm kicking myself I wasn't doing it earlier, and that is to do Facebook Live updates. So these are the not so professional videos where you just hit go and see what happens. And I've done quite a lot of them on my own project. It's been hard because for a long time I go into the house and gradually as we start to build up the house, the signal can't get through. Recently, Facebook Live have introduced this great thing that it just goes into a record. If it works out, you can't get the signal back to base, then it records it and uploads it when you have got a connection. They're magic. They're magic, these people. So if you're not following our Facebook page, there are loads of videos on there that you can check, updates as I've gone through the build, facebook.com/house planning help. And I thought you might find that interesting. We'll link it into the show notes too. Today's podcast is on my own project, and we're talking about landscaping and the garden. The dream of all self-builders is to finish their projects, finish them completely. The reality, of course, doesn't really follow that, does it? And architect Alan Caulfield, former podcast guest, we chatted to him in episode 168. He's got a blog, and this episode, in a way, was triggered by what I read there. It was a post on the most common mistakes in self-build and how to avoid them. One of his points being about money. So I'm going to read you a short extract of that blog. From our experience, we know that a lot of self-builders make the mistake of not organising their finances and budget before starting their self-build journey. This is a recipe for disaster. Before you start spending money on your project, consider all the options on how to fund your project. Before you even speak to an architect, make sure that you've discussed the project with someone like BuildStore. They will guide you in the right direction. Do your research to find out whether it's beneficial to get a mortgage. As a self-builder constructing an energy-efficient house, you will find that there are very competitive reduced rates often, which are linked to the energy performance. Get fixed costs throughout the whole project for all products and subcontractors. Analyse your cash flow. Cash flow is king. You must treat this as a commercial venture and make sure you can fund each stage of the project. Okay, coming out of the blog post there and reading through that, I can pretty much tell you I've failed at every hurdle there. I remember my calculations being very rough, dare I admit it, probably in my head as well. Missed out lots of things, and you've actually heard this happen over time. In episode 208, we were letting the dust settle after the tender returns came back way above where we hoped they would, and I went through the various reasons for that. So that all links in because after the house comes the garden, and often you just have that push to get into the house. Some people have to go into a house that's rather rough around the edges. We're really wanting to complete that. And today's story is we wanted to complete the garden. We wanted to do it all. So let's just spend a couple of moments thinking about the garden that we'd like. Our house sits on a plot size of 1/2 acre. This is definitely going to be a much bigger garden than we've had in our towns. And that's something that will be sad. In a town, you have a garden that you spend a couple of hours in it and it's looking magical, whereas 1/2 acre, I think, is going to be a little bit harder work. So on our list is certainly something that's low maintenance. We're not talking anything silly like putting in fake grass, just trying to reduce the amount of lawn. We don't want to spend all our time mowing lawns. Instead, can we have shrubs that can generally look after themselves? We obviously want areas that we can plant out and that will need watering. For me, I would quite like a vegetable garden. That's one of the exciting things of having some more space, growing some herbs as well. For the kids, an area to play in, perhaps a few wooden play toys, a little castle treehouse type thing, and an area to entertain. This is a bigger house, so we want to share our blessings with others. We hope to have as many guests as we possibly can, and part of that, in the summer at least, will be trying to get outside. That's the thing about a garden. In the winter, maybe it won't be used as much. So those are the things on our hit list. And one nice element is we've built into our contract things like the driveway, the patio that is in front of the house, or the fencing we're going to need, and levelling out the site. So as long as we can get to the end of the contract, those things will be done. Do we need a garden designer? Well, I'm not sure. I think there were two reasons why we did it. And firstly, we found a garden that impressed us. Kay and I and our noisy daughter Emily at that point, well, still noisy now, were checking out Colin Heal's Zero Carbon House when we looked out of the window.
So we get sun from about 12 o'clock onwards into this room and right through to the evening as well. So.
Fantastic. Yeah, it looks a very nice layout that you've got in your garden as well. Has that been work in progress for a while, or did you have that all finished straight away?
We've been here 2 years now, so the garden was the garden was started shortly after we moved in July. So
is that something you've done off your own back, or have you had advice on how to lay it out?
We worked out the rough design of what we want, then we had a garden designer put it into more detail, then her contractors came in and did all the work, and my wife's very keen, and so she's been getting a lot of advice on planting.
So did I hear a garden designer?
Yes.
Did the layout?
Yes.
Were you pleased?
Yes, very pleased. Yes. Yeah.
We're looking at a garden designer as well. Who did you use?
Jackie Goff.
Jackie Goff.
She's from Wheat Hampstead. Yeah.
It's funny how these things work off the back of that recommendation. We got in touch with Jackie, we liked her work, and then we hired her to put together initial designs. And whenever you hire a consultant, there is a cost attached. Obviously, you're hoping they bring value to the table. It could be a planning consultant, a quantity surveyor, building services engineer, project manager, lighting designer, interior designer, whatever. Where do you draw that line, though? Because you can get all of these people involved. And sometimes if you're using an architecture firm, for example, that might have a lot of experience, not saying to the level that some of these people might go. I'll give an example. When we were going through the planning stages of our build, I thought that Chris and the team were really clued up on the planning, and you could just tell that they'd been through planning application after planning application and had that in-depth knowledge. So for me, hiring a garden designer, I mentioned two reasons. One of them being that we found this wonderful garden. I thought, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could have something like that? But the other reason, I think, was about having a master plan. Because if you get the master plan after you've built the house and then discover you should have done something while you were building the house, you've blocked yourself. And that's annoying. So I thought, let's get this done up front. Okay, it may be a little while afterwards that we get it all complete. It would be nice to have something to think, well, this is the next stage of what we do. So this was the moment that Jackie and one of her team members, Joe, they'd been given the brief and they'd brought their designs back and they were showing them to us now.
This is expecting really for you to want changes from this. We've tried to put different things onto different plans, and then you will work out exactly as much as what you don't like as much what you do like. And then hopefully we'll go and we'll do a redraft and stuff from here if necessary, and then we'll know exactly where we're going. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. Cool. So, let me open them up. So we worked along where you had the original hedge and stuff going around here, and then along there, okay? And this is obviously the patio that the original architects put in there, which is not big enough for what you're going to want, basically. Right. And it's, as you said, it was very sunken down. So you don't want too many steps near to your house. You want them pushed away and then be able to get up to them. But I know you wanted to be able to sort of cut that bit off if necessary so that you can make that safe whilst they're really little.
Yes.
So this is another area. Now, this is really the size that you would really want as a sitting, table area. It could be smaller. You wouldn't want it any bigger.
And thinking about children on trikes and things like that, you've got a nice
this would all be
big area.
Well, it could either be decking if you wanted it to be, composite decking, which I know I'm not sure it's going to go with your eco thing.
I'm not a fan of decking
or
hugely.
paving, but it's another option, and it would actually look quite soft in that area, but it's not brilliant if it's not maintained properly, it gets slippy.
Exactly.
So, but then smooth decking is a lot better than ribby. But you could have this basically. You could have it made of brick. You could have it made of slabs. You
Probably
could have
need
it
to
made
see
of
it.
whatever. Exactly. So here, obviously, we've got some planting around there. So that could be a lavender hedge, or it could be whatever you wanted. To actually make it all look really enclosed and feel comfortable and secure in that area.
Yeah.
Here I think you'd want wildflowers or something very natural.
That'd be pretty,
to actually
by the fence.
Yeah, exactly. So this is that.
Yeah, that's nice.
And this is grass in here, but this is
That's the
effectively
kids' play area.
yeah.
Nice.
So we've put a little hedge down there and another hedge down there, and again that could be lavender or whatever you wanted it to be.
Nice.
With play equipment and stuff in here. A sunken trampoline if you wanted one there. It's the right size.
Ben hates it. I love it.
I know, but
Sunken one.
I think the sunken one.
Happy on the eye.
Behind a hedge as well.
Hedge, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you wouldn't see it at all,
Yeah.
but a little bench there for
think
when they're little.
This
so-
bit would need to be low enough that we could see the kids.
Exactly, but
Yeah.
if you had it made
a
from
lavender
something
hedge or
lavender,
something.
Yeah.
it
Then
would
you
be,
could see them.
It would be fine, or a
Nice.
plant, but it would look very natural. Still look not quite so mad, mad natural, but it still look okay.
What do you think, Emily? Would you like that? Oh, yes, I would.
Because, they're not going to be little forever, at the end of the day. You can't completely future-proof your garden,
No.
but you need it to be able to work for whilst they are small. So.
Which I could see, though, that as the kids get older, you could turn that into something else. You could extend the vegetable plot, or you could have it as you could put benches in there and make it a reading area for adults.
But kids will want play equipment for a long time.
Yes,
and actually...
And the trampolines, kids are on them for a long, long time.
Exactly, up 14, 15, they obviously
And the
still
adults
use
like
them.
them when they've had a few.
Yeah, they do. So, you could turn that into a little den for them or whatever, but you've got
A little tree house in there.
space, so that would be nice. So we put the mound round here in a corner, which obviously we decided to actually would help your privacy from what's going on here. Some sort of sleeper steps maybe would look nice going up there with a bench on the top, but again with good views around, somewhere to
that'd be
go.
nice.
There's a couple of trees, bits and pieces planting around here.
Nice.
This is obviously all your beech hedge going down here. And then here, we put beech around there, and here, that could be something different, but I know you said you particularly like the beech.
Yeah, we love beach.
Here we've got an arch with a gate, and you can have that in many styles, but you could have one of those roundy ones, something like that. And then here I've got your vegetable plot in here, so that's quite hidden. It depends how much you want to hide this really, or in terms of whether you want to feel like this is part of your front garden or almost like real public. Then we've obviously got a grass path going down here. So this would actually be grass, okay?
Yep.
And then wildflowers here with mown paths through them. So you've got nice little sweepy
Yeah,
bits
that'd be nice.
where
You
kids
can walk through them
run
and-
through.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You can move those, you could change them if you want, you can
Yeah.
put more in, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's nice.
But the idea of having the trees dotted around here like this actually means from whichever look you're looking, you've got something in your view rather than just having them in one area. And it would look a lot more natural to have them scattered.
And it goes on. You can probably tell we're really happy with the designs. The finished design was actually very, very similar to the first option that they presented us. Some minor tweaks in there. houseplanninghelp.com/219 if you want to have a look at it right now. And a side note too, just indulge me here for a moment, because we didn't get a computer copy of this. Every other single plan that we've had, we've managed to put on our hard drive. And this one, no, this came coloured in and laminated for a proper gardener. And it did have an added bonus as well, because when they're laminated, they become kid friendly. And so James in particular has constantly been pulling it out, because we have it by our samples in our front room, and he pulls it out and he likes to put it on the floor. Have a listen to this. As I said, indulge me.
This is a road, and this is a road, and this I run onto the bus and run onto the road and go on the pay and go down the steps and have a barbecue and have a little rest on the bench and go in my bedroom and have lots of toys in there.
Go in my bedroom and have lots of toys in there. Well, that is good. Where did we get that from the garden design? It definitely wasn't on there originally. And this is quite interesting for me. I know I've said this a number of times, how blogging or just getting some memory of your build is important. James has changed. He doesn't sound anything like that now. And we're really only talking a few months ago. He probably still wants a bedroom full of toys, though, if we're totally honest here. Getting back to our landscaping story, the whole point of this episode has been about careful and realistic budgeting. And that's hard because I think unless you're someone who's been through this a lot before, perhaps your job involves project managing, you're not going to execute as well as you perhaps might like. So remember, in my case, our tender returns came back as a shock. We'd been hoping that the build cost would be around about £400,000. And then what we discovered was the lowest bid was about £612,000. We did a bit of shaving off of various things. For example, just looking at the landscaping, as that's what this is about today, we had hoped to have some brick walls for retaining walls, and we resorted to timber sleepers. So all of these sorts of things we did in that value engineering time when we were looking at the contract. So there are little changes that happen as the project chugs on, mainly talking about PC sums here, those ones that you've given yourself a budget to work to. Hopefully you can stick within that. So I'm going to give you an example of a PC sum and also an unexpected cost that arose. We had a PC sum for the bathrooms. I think that also included toilets downstairs. Now, I haven't got the numbers to hand, but originally it might have been 8,000, and then the potential saving was to take it down to 6,000, so just reducing the spec of the bathrooms, and I think we decided to keep it at 8,000. Something we did do, though, was we decided, why have we got 3 bathrooms upstairs? At a push, we've got 4 bedrooms upstairs. One of them is really an office most of the time, and then it does double duty if we have guests. So this is a room that won't be used that much. And then we decided, well, let's just have 2 bathrooms upstairs, the family bathroom and one for the master bedroom. That will get used every day as well. And this additional space, it has the potential to be turned into an ensuite, probably by someone else other than us, because all the piping's in there, which is quite handy. And we'll use it as a storage space, which I'm very happy about. I think that that is going to be a huge asset, has the potential it could become another room over time. I think the storage space will be used. You know what happens when you have storage spaces? You fill them up. So that's an example of where we took something out. The silly part of this is that I think we haven't really saved that much money by not doing one bathroom. All that's happened is we've spent that money on the existing bathroom. So we probably still spent quite a lot. An unexpected cost? Well, here's one of my audio journal entries from a couple of weeks ago. If you're going to tackle a self-build, you're going to have plenty of decisions to make. And most of the time you make the decision, it's in the past, you forget about it, and perhaps at the end you might think, oh, maybe we should have done this. On the whole though, the decisions, they keep coming, you keep making them. every so often there's a tricky decision, and it's generally when you have conflicting advice from the experts. And this is one of those situations, because the eco thing to do here, I'm talking landscaping, we've had to set our house down by 0.5 metre in order to get planning permission. And the knock-on effect is quite a lot of spoil has been taken from where the house is and in front of the house. And as we start landscaping, the patio area, the porch, as you drive into the garage, these are all areas that soil needs to be excavated. And so what do we do with that? Well, the good quality stuff, fine, we can repurpose that in the garden. What about this poor quality clay? And I've seen sites where it's been spread out, and sometimes the gardens just don't thrive afterwards, or they had to import more topsoil. So the decision that we've gone with is to move it off site. Is it the right decision? I don't know.
At least when it's your decision, it's easier to live by. You'll have plenty of decisions coming your way. So I think we've got to start to round this off today, and landscaping, it does come at the end of the project. You wouldn't do it midway through. And so naturally, we're going to have this situation that it gets eaten into. That budget, even if you have budgeted well, it's going to be the bit that takes the hit. If you're staying on budget, what you're always doing as you go through is you're making sure that you hit all the little points at every key stage. You're not afraid to take the specification down. And I think a rookie like me might be tempted to think, well, why don't we just put the quality of what we'd like in there now, and then we'll see if we can find some extra money at the end. Oh, dangerous game, dangerous game. The most important thing for us is to be able to move into a functioning house. That's where the focus is going to be. And little things like, you consider the build cost. It's never going to include a budget maybe of 5 to 10 grand for curtains. You wouldn't even think it, would you? Or furniture, 15 grand. Those things you need on your budget, and you need to be realistic about. If you're building a big house, you are going to need a budget to buy furniture. So it's all those hidden costs that never get flagged up in the early days. I'm trying to flag them up for you now. If we move into the house and it's not fit for purpose, then the first few weeks, or it might turn into months or even years, would not be as exciting as perhaps they would be. The good thing is, looking at our build where we're at now, I can think, well, actually, it's going to be pretty nice. If we can just get the MVHR commissioned, we could move in tomorrow if we really needed to. If the garden is just a load of mud, because of course part of the contract is to make sure that it's at least left in a good condition, so that will turn to weeds and then maybe even some grass in there quite soon, then that's fine. And the other thing to bear in mind is our move-in date is mid-autumn, so we might just have missed the opportunity to get some planting out straight away. We're also not going to be in the garden that much, are we, as we move through the winter? So the worst case scenario is we're just going to be looking at a load of mud for the next few months, where we might have a bit of extra time to try and get some funds together so that we can kick off that landscaping in 2019. Well, here's hoping, at least. The good thing is, I like gardening. It's one of my hobbies. Love the fresh air, particularly when a lot of my work involves staring at computers or dealing with equipment, just getting out there, getting your hands dirty. Whereas DIY, I'm a DIY disaster. I do not want to be finishing up any little jobs around the house, and my wife wouldn't want that either. A final thought then today, I was chatting to Jason Orme from Home Building and Renovating. He's just finished a renovation. And if you think about everything, learning from the magazine, doing the shows that they do, and also he's done a self-build before this and a renovation. I'm going to lift one sentence out of our email correspondence. Landscaping and a few final things await an, as far as I can see, never arriving cash injection. Even the experience, this happens to them too. Get a recap of what we've been talking about today at houseplanninghelp.com/219. You can take a look at the plan for the garden if you want to have a nose at that. Any comments or questions, just scroll down to the bottom and there's an area to leave those. We'll link you across to Jackie Goff. You can check out her website and some of the amazing designs she's done in the past. houseplanninghelp.com/219. We are just about there for another day. Question for you. Do you want more?
Have you got time for more? Are you chomping at the bit? Because perhaps if you're building in the UK, well, maybe you would be a perfect hub member, because one of the things of joining a membership site is you need to participate. You get out what you put in, which I suppose is like many things in life, really. But because we've got quite a lot of videos in there now, quite a lot of courses, got the progress calls, which are monthly. But if you put the time in, we really hope that we give you an extra head start in your self-build journey. In fact, not just at the beginning, this is all the way through. We've got people who are realizing their projects, not just talking about it, and you'll be amongst like-minded people. So if you haven't checked out the hub, houseplanninghelp.com/join. That's your lot. There we go. Thanks for listening. The House Planning Help podcast is produced by Regen Media. Content that matters.